In March 2020, this hospital became the European epi-centre for an unfolding pandemic. In Italy's Bergamo area, COVID-19 took more lives in 3 weeks than in the whole of 2019. Almost a year later, we went to Nembro, one of Bergamo's hardest-hit municipalities. Matteo Cella has been a priest here for 10 years. His evening services often turn to a remembrance for those taken by the virus. Between March and April 2020, almost 2% of Nembro's inhabitants died.
Behind the statistics are people special to our community. For instance, there was a midwife. She was 58 and an active volunteer here in the parish. A very well-known person, always eager to assist mums who needed help. She cared for her own old mother before she passed away from COVID-19. Then she herself got sick and died a week later. It was just weeks after she became a grandma. There was a day in March when our telephone rang 16 times. Each ring announced the death of another neighbour.
At the start of 2020, the mortality rate in the area rose by 400%. Church bells stopped ringing for COVID-19 victims. The mere sound had become a source of anxiety and fear. Funeral homes were submerged. Local graveyards had to halt operations. We
came here in limited numbers, only close relatives. We celebrated brief funeral rites, a blessing of the souls. Each rite lasted just a few minutes. It was very intense. It was the only means, the only language at our disposal to give some humanity back to the final stages of all the lives that had been neglected. Many of the victims had died in total solitude, far from their loved ones.
Sara and Diego know what it's like to lose loved ones in complete solitude. Diego is a metal worker. He lost his mother and his father in the space of 4 days. Around the same time, Sara, a security guard at Bergamo airport, lost her father.
He gave his life for his sons, yet my dad died alone. My mum was the same. She also died alone. Nobody should be in this situation. Her dad's story is more or less the same.
Yes, my dad was young too. He was 67. He didn't suffer from any illnesses. He was in really good health. But he'd been at home with a fever for 5 days, and the fever wouldn't come down. His doctor and the local health agency said if he didn't have any respiratory problems, if he hadn't been in contact with any Chinese people, then it wasn't coronavirus, so we didn't have to worry. It was just a flu. But the fever wouldn't come down, so my mum decided to take him to the ER. My father walked by himself to the car. They drove and went into the hospital. That was the last time we saw him.
Sara and Diego met while still mourning. Now they live together. They are members of We Will Denounce, an association looking for answers and justice for what first happened in Bergamo and then nationwide.
I'm angry. Our parents are gone before their time. They did not deserve this. The 60,000 other COVID-19 victims didn't deserve to die this way either. So many families have been destroyed forever because of this curse. This is the reason we are fighting. We are fighting for justice. We are trying to understand what we can do, what we can't do. We want to know if the rules were respected. That's it.
This drive-through in Milan can test up to 500 people a day. One of its members of staff is 29-year-old Captain Karim Reshedi. He is an army doctor and served in Afghanistan and Lebanon. At the start of the first wave, he was dispatched to Bergamo's overwhelmed main hospital. He agreed to come back there with us.
I remember a man who was crying. He could not stop crying. I went over to understand what was happening. He told me that his son had been hospitalized for several days, and he was very worried. So I looked at the computer database to see about his son, who was born in 1977. He was very young. I saw that he was in intensive care. I called them to see how he was doing. They told me that he had just died some minutes ago. I had never been in a situation like this before. I had to tell the father that his son had just passed.
But Karim also remembers moments that restored hope.
My nicest memory involves one of our patients. He had been hospitalized in a critical situation. He eventually recovered and was then released. He works as a carpenter. Sometime later, he came back with several small hearts carved out of wood, which read Molla Mia. This is Bergamo slang for the Italian expression, never give up.
Bergamo and its surrounding areas are still learning to live with the pandemic. Father Matteo has created support groups for teenagers whose lives have been heavily impacted. As well as suffering, he believes the tragedy has brought a new sense of belonging and solidarity here.
Some have used the pandemic to find ways to be useful to the community, to the world. Others have understood that they need to take life seriously. They need to be more responsible, and they have worked on themselves. It is true that not everyone has reacted this way. Not everyone has gone through this. But they are the positive examples of people who have not let themselves be defeated by fear and resignation.